So what advice would you give, Malia, to somebody who might be listening right now and maybe has a hard time making friends? Like maybe they're really shy or, they aren't in a community or involved in things right now where they've got a lot of friends going on in their group. Is there like any kind of advice you would give someone listening about how to make friends and how to be a good one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, gosh, I played a character who was very similar to that, a very shy girl and was very introverted, did not know how to make her friends, and had a really hard time trying to find herself and being okay with herself. So I think the only thing is that I can really provide comfort in is that there's probably someone in the same room that you are that is going through the exact same thing. They're probably having a really hard time trying to be themselves, trying to put themselves out there, trying to not want to call home straight away. And it's so hard to do because I feel like the easiest thing to say is go up to them, go say hi. But it's hard, you can't really do that. It's a difficult feeling because you're both going through the same thing. It's not exactly like they're going to do the exact same thing. So I would really just say spend some time and work on yourself just a little bit. What do you like? Like, what do you like doing? What do you want to find people that have the same interests of you? Do you want to like get into art? Do you like science? Do you like math? All those type of things. And just kind of put yourself and throw yourself into those situations that you wouldn't necessarily do 2 months ago. And as difficult as it is, I feel like it's part of like what I said before, the growing.
And also, when you're making new friends, I feel like, especially in middle school, you always want to have that like perfect friend group of like the really popular girls, but that's sometimes really scary. But there is a lot of pressure to have like a good girl friend group. So I want to know what your experiences have been with that. How do you handle a big friend group, and especially ones where some people are closer inside the friend group and there might be those little cliques, which is honestly, that happens a lot of the time.
Yeah, it does happen a lot of the time. I remember being a part of this trio friend group, and I feel like we all know that sometimes they're not the best situations. There's always one person at a given moment that feels like they're being left out and that it's a best friend situation and you're just tagging along for the ride. And it's hard because you thought your initial response to this was, oh, we're great, we're a group, but it just doesn't turn out to feel that way at the end of the day. And I think that's when you really got to, honestly, what I remember is my first experience was in like kindergarten, and we're still friends to this day. Is hilarious. So it's like obviously people that I wanted to stick around with. But I think just having those conversations of, I'd really like to do this thing with you guys, or even giving yourself the opportunities to allow yourself to wiggle in and create activities that allow 3 people to do things, because they usually don't come in 3 people things, which is really annoying. What else was I going to say? The funny thing is that sometimes you're the person that is in the kind of inner circle, and that even sucks more because you can see someone else is having a really hard time, but there's that kind of veil that you put over yourself because you're having a great time finally and you want to enjoy it. So I really think just be the bigger person with that, treat people how you want to be treated in that sense, and allow yourself to actually be a part of that kind of group, because it is hard. I mean, I feel like we've probably all experienced that kind of group and not knowing the complete dynamics of that group in different scenarios.
And you mentioned something really important too, though, which is about communication, like speaking up and saying something. I find most of the conflict that happens in all relationships, but especially friendships, is when we either feel intimidated to say something, or we're afraid of conflict. We're afraid, like, if I say something to this friend, they're going to hate me. I'm going to get kicked out of the group, And I think those are really important signs to look for, right? Like easeful communication is really important. Malia, do you have any thoughts or advice on how to speak up when you're having a conflict with a friend? Have you noticed anything that really worked for you to make communication successful?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I use codes with my friends a lot. I use them with Shay sometimes too. We'll do like I think we have a hedgehog emoji code. I don't know.
We do. Yeah, we haven't used it in a while, which is good though, because it was our code for like,
Stuff's
I'm
up.
not doing great right now. Like I want to talk to you about something. So it's good that we haven't had to use it. Yeah.
Exactly. I was about to say, I was like, I haven't seen it in a while. I'm actually really happy I have it. But there are those kind of codes, because for me at least, I've always found it really difficult to deal with conflict with my close family, friends as well. Even my sister, I don't like dealing with conflict in that sense. And
It's scary.
although sometimes really, really needed, it's hard, and you don't know what to do with yourself. You don't know how it's going to affect your friendship afterwards, and you want it to remain the same and the same level of love and closeness as you initially had. So I would really say find what works for you. If there's like one word that you want to use that's like, this isn't okay with me, but I love you, but also can we talk about this a little bit more? A phone call, just a group hangout, so we could like have a complete spill of emotions and feelings. I feel like that's how you get your closest friends, in all honesty, is once they've seen you completely break down. And I definitely have done that. So
yeah, they got to see the ugly cry a little bit.
And I want to say really quickly too, there are so many different ways to bring up difficult things that you want to talk about with your friends or with your family. If you feel like you just can't say the words to their face, you can write it in a letter and leave it for them to read. You can send a text. You can have a phone call, a FaceTime. Figure out what works for you, like Malia was just saying, because it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Let's do one of these awesome quizzes really quick, because I think we're building our way there, right?
Yeah.
So are you in a toxic friendship? So everybody listening, think about this. These are, again, going to be the yes or no quizzes from the book. Okay. So when you're together, do you spend most of your time competing with each other?
No.
See, but think about that. Have you had a friend
before.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself purposely doing things that bother that person?
No.
But if somebody is purposely bothering you, that's something to look at.
Yeah.
Do you silently cheer when something bad happens to them? Do you feel bad about yourself after spending time with them?
That is a huge one. That touches on what we were talking about with good friends, where you feel good. So my answer is no, because a lot of the people in my life are really good friends.
Yeah, but this is a really good thing to be aware of.
Absolutely.
And do you feel obligated to spend time with them even when you don't feel like it?
No.
So this is great, the quiz about being in a toxic friendship, because I do think what we're getting at is sometimes you might need to walk away. And coming up next, we're going to talk to Katie Hurley, who's a social worker who's been helping us out on the show, answer some tough questions. So let's talk to Katie about the steps that we can take when it's time to break up with a friend.
Katie, it's so great to have you here with us today to talk about friendships. I got some questions from my audience that kind of go a little bit more in depth about maybe the struggles that we can experience with friendships. So I will ask you some of them. The first one is, what are the signs of a friendship that can't be repaired?
Well, friendships can be super complex. And something that we often forget to tell girls is that friendships can have seasons. So sometimes you're super close, super tight with a friend, and everything seems right as rain and going great. And then all of a sudden it goes cold. And it's like it went from summer to winter overnight. And you don't know what happened, right? And that can happen to adults too. I mean, it's normal for this to happen at all ages. And so it's important to know that. I think in terms of having trouble repairing a friendship, I always try to err on the side of look at it as a seasonal change. Unless you really feel like there's no way to come back, try not to cut people off, because people go through hard things. And when people go through hard things, they are not at their best, and they might not be acting like a really good friend, but they may come back around later on. And you might say, oh, actually, I did enjoy this friendship once, and maybe we could try again in a different way. So it's just important to kind of keep that in mind when you're working through a friendship challenge. But if friends are trying to manipulate you to do or say things that you don't want to do, if they are lying to you a lot, if they are deliberately leaving you out of things and isolating you, and then maybe putting those things on social media where they know you can see it, those are all kind of signs of a friendship that needs to take a pause right now, I would say. So it's really just important to think about, how are you feeling within this friendship? Does it feel like a two-way friendship? Does it feel like a solid friendship, like there's trust? and understanding, or does it feel like you're getting left out and hurt? Because if you're feeling that way, it's time to take a pause.
Yeah.
And to that point, Shay and I have talked a lot in this episode about, figuring out maybe when it might be time to break up with a friend. Could you help give some language? One of the questions is, how do I actually break up with a friend? And I think sometimes our listeners want to have sort of like a sample phrase or an example of how you can do that in a way that is, as kind as possible, but as clear as possible.
Well, I always tell girls that we have to learn how to set boundaries early, and we have to be able to do it without feeling bad about it. So if a friendship is not working out and you're feeling hurt and you're feeling left out and you're feeling isolated, it is acceptable to just be straight and to the point and say, I need space from this friendship right now. This friendship isn't working for me right now. I need a break.
Do you have to give a lot of excuses or reasons why? Because I think some girls get anxious, like they're going to have to say why they want that. Or what if that person says, well, why? What did I do? Can you just go back and repeat, I really need space? Like, what would you advise?
Yeah, I would say keep it short and simple. And I understand that feeling. And I think it's human to feel that way. We want to sort of pad a situation with excuses to sort of make it feel a little lighter or to have a reason, but you don't have to have a reason. You're allowed to just set a boundary because that's what you need to do right now. You're allowed to say, you know what, I'm focusing on other things right now. I'm trying on some new friendships right now.
Yeah, I also want to say that a lot of the time we'll feel like it's necessary to pad by saying, it's okay though, I'm not mad, like it's totally fine. But it is really important to know that we can't set those boundaries without saying it's fine. Because a lot of the time, the reason why we're breaking up with somebody is because they did something that wasn't okay. Right. So I want to say it's important to do that too.